Voters on the centre right, as you know, are generally individual. Some are even libertarian. They're not necessarily, as you say, disciplined on their preferences. We know the Green preferences come to Labor, back to Labor about 80% of the time, very disciplined. Not so on the right. If you look at Newspoll, though, you'll see that there's a grouping of 9%, but split between Palmer and One Nation. And then there's another grouping of other. Let's assume everyone in that group is a Teal voter. That's 6%. The focus in this election campaign, and I have to say for the last couple of years, in policy terms from the coalition, is all focused on that 6%. But that 6% is driving that 9% to grow and leave the party. Now, Blind Freddie can tell you in terms of numbers, 9% loss is worse than a 6% loss. So they'll lose government because they've jettisoned their base in order to try and get some of these Teal voters who are left-wing voters. I mean, they've got a more extreme climate demand, these Teal types, than even the Labor Party.
Well, yeah, I think your analysis is bang on, Peter. So again, let me give you, as foreign editor, let me give you an international example. David Cameron and Theresa May in Britain tried to cleave to the soggy centre in order to hang on to power, and they were always ebbing away from power. Now, Boris Johnson came in, and on Brexit, not on a lot of other things, on a lot of other things he's been very disappointing, but on Brexit and on national security and now on Ukraine, he went back to traditional conservative identity. He went, if you like, hard right. He didn't take an equivocal position on Brexit. He took a position, a strong position, a position that you could, describe, it's an inadequate term, but you could describe it as more right-wing than a centrist position. And he prosecuted the argument, and he won the argument, and he won a huge landslide election victory. One of my criticisms of the Morrison government is that it's tried to neutralise all the big arguments in Australian politics. It hasn't tried to win a single big argument. And a point I know you've been making is that for a decade, Liberals have been winning elections on the climate change argument. Not that they're against action to reduce emissions, but that Labor's actions are too radical and too costly, and the Liberals are going to reduce emissions sensibly, but hang on to energy security and all the rest of it. Well, they haven't prosecuted that case this time. They've simply surrendered. So Morrison the other night in the debate was saying he thought he would get emissions down by 35% by 2030. Labor promises 43%. Well, that's no difference at all, given how ropey all these promises are. So they've given up the fight. But, a coward dies 1,000 times, a brave man only dies once. Would have been much better to go down swinging, I think, than to just ebb out of office as a pale imitation of your opponents.